right, guys, we're back. And again with another, well, you've been here before. I was going to say another high-level entrepreneur, but you've been here before. We're back on the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, and today's guest is none other than Todd Fleming himself. And we're going to talk about cash flow today.
I'm excited about that. That's my favorite topic. It's an honor to be invited back, by the way. So pleasure is all mine. I'm just excited to be on another podcast and have another conversation with a good friend.
No. The first one went great, and I'm glad to bring you back on. And last time we talked a lot about, from what I remember, was mindset. You're big on mindset and rewarding yourself. But this time, we're going to talk a lot on cash flow. And from personal experience, it can be a beating within the entrepreneurial space, especially real estate flipping in particular, where my income has been like this in my real estate endeavors this past 2 years. So reading your book really inspired me to try to push forward on getting a more passive investment or into more passive investments. But I love your approach, which I actually used from your first book on a friend here in my local areas, and as in regards to wholesaling and grabbing a monthly residual from that investor that bought the property from me.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to start building repeat income. So the problem with flipping, right, is if you don't have a huge systematic actual business model behind it, you get those big waves, like the big up months, the big down months, and it's tough to make clear and concise decisions.
Yeah.
That is what is so important about cash flow. Cash flow, more than anything, is a mind clearing tool that allows you to make clear and concise decisions. That way you can grow a business as opposed to constantly working inside of it.
Yeah.
And before you can transition out of that, you get, what do you get with the big ups and downs on income? You get the big emotions with it too. You get the big stress with it. And you kind of start running this stress cycle where you're in panic mode, you're out of panic mode, you're in panic mode, you're out of panic mode. And that wears on you. And it becomes really, really difficult to grow and actually become a true business when you're constantly working like that.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel you there. So let's talk about how to get people out of it. And you've got a multitude of ways. Which one do you like the best? Which model do you like the best? I know you got some rentals, you got some notes, you got some, I believe you're calling them second lien position notes on these, or seconds?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways. So me personally, I love paper, also known as notes, also known as owning debt. I love paper. I love owning rentals. I love owning property, owning debt. So the great piece about, say, owning debt, and something that I go into in the new book a lot, is that there's a lot of ups. There's ups and downs with each investment type, right? So you have, for paper, you have your ups are completely passive. It's like the ultimate investing tool, right? The more we can act like the bank, the better. Because banks are the most powerful entities on the planet for a reason, and that's because they have money constantly flowing to us or flowing to them without actually having to put in any more work. They don't have to worry about tenants. They don't have to worry about utilities. They don't have to worry about maintenance. They don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah,
that's the beautiful part about notes, and that's how I originally transitioned out of strictly just wholesaling and flipping. That way I could start building a repeat business and have a clearer mind and a more relaxed mind. That way we could focus on other things. And the reason for that was, well, there's a couple of different reasons for that. The first reason was actually that my wife got sick and I wasn't able to work every day. And once you are focused or forced into a corner like that, you realize where your weaknesses are. So it was actually, it's tough to say you're grateful for something like that, but it turned out to be a benefit to us because obviously, she's good now.
Yeah.
But what it taught us was that we needed something that would be a business for us as opposed to me just working really hard at a job. And we originally thought, like, okay, if we can't be working on anything, we still can't own rentals or property because we're still going to have to work on things like that. We're just going to have to build a team for that. So we started off with notes and owning paper and owning debt. That way the money would come into us each month, but we weren't having to worry about maintenance or upkeep or anything like that. And then we eventually transitioned into purchasing property, single family, multifamily, looking at storage units heavily. I think we both have some serious interest in storage units. I have some friends that do really well in that space. But my goal this year is to buy 50 more properties We are on pace to do that as of right now, which is awesome. We're actually ahead of pace to do that right now, which is fantastic. And then we're going to keep growing that avenue.
Awesome. So are you, well, can't decide if I want to go in depth on notes or not, but are you creating the notes or are you buying the notes that other investors have created?
So you can do it one of two ways. And what you're discussing there is, let's say a note is already been created. Let's say somebody already owns a debt. Every dollar in the world, by the way, is a piece of debt, right? Mm-hmm. Every dollar is owed to somebody else. There is no money in your pocket that is actually yours. It's actually money that was owed to somebody else at some point. It's why it was created. It's why it was printed. So once you start to realize that, you can start looking at, okay, I have different opportunities in other areas. I can look at a piece of property and go, somewhere there is money owed on that I can actually own. And if I own it for less than what the property is worth or for what, or less than what is currently owed. So if there's $20,000 owed on it and I can buy it for 10, I just created $10,000 more over time. So when you start looking at situations like that, you start creating new opportunities. And when you're aware of that, you can capitalize on them. So you absolutely have the ability to buy notes from other investors, other entities, banks. Banks typically like you to be a pretty large player. If you're going to come in and buy from them, they like quite a bit more capital. But what's funny is that you can find notes just like properties. We talk about in the wholesale book a lot. Hey, how do you find a problem to solve for people? Craigslist ads, buy-sell trade groups on Facebook, putting your name out everywhere, flyers, stickers. I mean, you name it. The funny part is if you change the wording on those ads and you just change it to, I want to buy notes, I'm looking to buy debt, now those come to you. Mm-hmm. You can wholesale a note just like a property. You don't have to have any money. You can turn it over to somebody else. If you have a note buyer and you have a note seller, you can put them together and take a piece of the pie. It's all exactly the same. Like it's all very, very identical, very, very similar. And you have the ability to do that. You can do that with businesses even. I talk about that in the second book. You actually have the ability to put these two people together and then you'll be paid for the value that you bring. And then the other way is that you create the notes. So you own a piece of property, you have interest in a property, and you are going to sell your interest or the property itself and accept payments over time. That's my personal favorite one, just because I have more control over it. I have more control over what the note looks like. I have more control over the requirements for the person who's technically borrowing from me, even though I'm not taking any money out of my pocket. An example of that is I had a house for, I was all in on it at 10 grand. I sold it for $40,000. So I took $10,000 down. It completely cashed me out. And then I took $500 a month, give or take a few bucks for 7 or 8 years. So that's a $20,000 or $30,000 property on the market. I end up profiting 45 grand.
Right. And so that $500 a month, is that a number that you let your buyers choose, or are you basing that on some sort of predetermined AM schedule and interest rate that you prefer?
That is actually something that I usually typically work with the borrower on, honestly. Mm-hmm. Some guys and gals, they like to have it very, very set and structured in a way like, look, it's going to be this and this is it. If it doesn't fit for you, I'm going to find somebody else. Yeah. I actually like to work with people. And what I've found is when I typically work with people a little bit on that, is I am able to find a little bit better fit. And if I'm able to fit it within somebody's like specific criteria or what they really, really need, they typically pay better.
Yeah, less default.
They pay on time and they're more reliable. So it actually ends up working out better for us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you have less default rates and you no need to go back in and either be no point in going back in and having to foreclose or renegotiate the loan or do a modification or anything. And so I see that one there. And are you trying to get at what that particular neighborhood's PITI is, or are you trying to do below market rents, or or is it just simply, hey, what can you afford? Let's see what we can do as far as terms. So
my goal for people is to allow them to own for less than what the rental rate is. And the reason for that is it creates a real big market for me. Yeah. And it creates a lot of reach and a lot of opportunity for us right off the bat. So if there's an area where, say, it rents $600, but I can have them own it for $500 or $550 all in, it's really, really, appealing to people.
Right.
And I immediately put myself ahead of the competition. I put myself ahead of everybody else around, because the other thing that I have is I have nicer property than other people typically.
Mm-hmm.
So one, you're going to have a nicer property, you're going to pay less per month, and you're going to get to own it. I think that seems like a win-win, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a no-brainer in the long run. There are times where we're more expensive than the rental rate, but it all depends on the price of the property and what they can actually bring to the table up front. There's a lot of people with mattress money that they can't get a typical loan, but they have cash saved up. They're looking to spend that, especially around tax time. Tax time is a big time opportunity to sell properties on terms and get yourself cashed out in the down payment because people have it available to them.
Yeah, most definitely. And are you servicing these notes yourself, or?
I do not. No. Originally I did. And then I asked myself, if I had 50 more of these, what would my life look like? And it would have been hellacious. It would have been hectic if the answer is anything but great. You have a problem on your hands that you need to solve. So we actually use a note servicing company. The note servicing company is out of California. And so far, they are very, very thorough up front. But what's great about them is, one, it's only a couple bucks per note. So it's very, very affordable. But on top of that, all the tax papers are done for you. Like, everything is handled for you. All the transfers are done for you. It becomes very, very simple and easy for you to scale.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like we may have been skipping around a little bit. So I'm going to try to take everything we just talked about into a nutshell, and actually a question too. So you're finding a property, for example, your $10,000 one all in. The house is worth 40, 45 all together and remodeled. So let's say you're not buying cash. Are you raising private money to buy some of these houses and then wrapping?
So I typically use a lot of our own capital. But to answer your question, yes, you can absolutely do that. We have done that. It has not been a problem for us. We've had a lot of great results with raising private money and using capital up front. What we like to do is we have very specific criteria for holding. And if it doesn't fit that specific criteria for holding, we'll sell it on terms because we still want the cash flow. We still want the repeat, right?
Right.
I'm not saying a $40,000 check isn't sexy. Everybody loves the big sexy checks. I love the big sexy checks. I want a big check. Like, somebody hand me $100,000. I would love to. But if you are willing to give me $1,000 a month for 10 years instead of $100,000 up front, I'm going to take the $1,000 a month. Because on repeat, it's consistent. My mind's clear. I have less of a chance to make a mistake with that money than I do with $1,000 a month, right? You can make $1,000 a month mistake multiple times and you're still okay. If you make a $100,000 mistake, it's going to be tougher for you to recover from. So it's just a good way to actually set your mind up for your creativity and resourcefulness. Because when you put all of your capital into one bulk place, right, it becomes very, very easy to spend it. You get loose with it. You're no longer as resourceful. You're not as creative. And you're not investing in things that are as tightly knit as what you normally may be if you don't have any money. So a great way that I do this is I make sure to pay myself first. It's actually the first financial principle that everybody should follow. So I pay myself first, pay the business first. When we have capital come in, I have different accounts set up, right? And what happens is when capital comes in, a specific amount goes to each account, right? And what it does is it makes smaller plates, it makes smaller portions, and then it keeps you resourceful and creative while all of these are still growing. As opposed to just being in one account, all the expenses come out of it. Hey, I got a little tight on this. I'm just going to take from this really quick because it's there and it's available to me. You can only do that so many times before it actually bleeds you dry. And without cash flow, without the stream going into your pond, right? Or like if that way you're going to churn and you're going to dry up if you're just a pond, right? If you don't have any cash flow, if you don't have any streams of income, you're going to eventually dry up. So what cash flow does is it allows that to be super consistent, and then you can take more risk. You can take on bigger investments. You can take on bigger ideas because, the next month you're going to be right back.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And that's why I wanted you back on, because I feel you there. I look back on last year, I'm like, man, I made a bunch of money. Where the hell did it all go?
Where is it? Exactly. That is what happens. It does not matter if you make $5,000 or $500,000. You should be profiting first. And first and foremost, like, you should have accounts set up where you're paying yourself first no matter what. Because at the end of the year, when it comes tax time, when it comes time for paying yourself, like, too many people, I watch a ton of people all the time, myself included. I've forgotten it on businesses. I've gotten undisciplined with it. is when you're looking at a business and you're going, okay, I'm investing heavily in it. It's growing, but I don't have any money. And where is it all at? It says I made 400 grand this year, but I have $2,000 in my bank account. Where is it all at?
Yeah.
By doing this and divvying it up and understanding your money management, you will avoid this and you'll be constantly growing. And your stress levels are so much lower. Like you can make incredible decisions when you are consistent in what you're doing with your money.
Yeah. You're singing to my beat over here. I know exactly how that feels. And need to hire you to come over here and teach me all this crap.
I am available. That is my purpose on this earth, is to end financial suffering, and I will scream that from the hilltops. So that is my goal, is to end financial suffering.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's all education. It's all literacy. It is 100% a choice. When I was down in the dumps, dead broke, had to make $100,000 a year to pay off my minimum interest payments. Minimum interest payments. That means not actually paying any principal, right? Mm-hmm. Just you're paying the revolving debt. If I can get out of that, after I got out of that, I realized, this was a choice. I chose to get out of it instead of giving up. So that's what other people need to do. I want to inspire them to do that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, so let's wrap up this note thing. So a note is a promissory note is a promise to pay back a debt. So you bought a house for, let's say, $5,000. You rehabbed it for $5,000 more. You're all in $10,000. You sold it to the end buyer for $45,000 on payments. And so now you are the bank. The buyer makes payments to the servicing company, who pays you and makes sure that they're paying it on time. And are they doing the holdback or escrow for taxes, or they do all that, right? The servicing company?
Yeah, they will do absolutely everything. They do escrow services for everything, which again is really nice. And in the end, if you ever have a borrower, or if you are a borrower and a seller, like, is having pushback for that, it actually makes life better for them. I don't know if when you own property, certain times of the year, you get a lot of envelopes from the local fiscal office and you owe a bunch of taxes, right? Everyone loves getting all those envelopes. Like, I have an entire stack of envelopes next to me because taxes are due in a handful of days here. And what's nice is one of those is from my personal home and there's no money owed on it because the money has already been taken out. So you're not seeing it. Like, what they are doing is actually what we were just talking about with our cash management. Yeah. They're doing that for you because they know if they don't, they're not going to get it. That's why they do that.
Yeah, that's what banks do it.
Yeah, exactly. So the more that you can actually practice as the bank does, the better, because it allows you to scale. Yep. You are wanting to model the wealthiest entities on the planet because it's working for them. It's going to work for you.
Yeah. Okay, so buyer pays servicer pays you. You don't worry about toilets. You don't worry about anything. They don't call you. And when they do, you say, don't you remember, this isn't a lease. This is a mortgage. You own the house. Good luck. So everybody's going to say, oh, well, where do you find $5,000, $10,000 houses? I mean, not in my neck of the woods. I'm in wherever, houses are 50, 100, 150,000. So what do you do then if you don't have your own cash? And that's why I mentioned the investors. So you raise your money. You go buy a house that's worth 120, you go buy it for 50. You raise your $50,000 and you make your money on the spread between the wrap. I might be confusing people way much here. So you take the $50,000 from the investor, you wrap that one with a $120,000 note to your end buyer, and you grab the $70,000 difference over the life of the loan, amortized over 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 years.
Yep, exactly. And what's cool about that is, like, if you have more expensive properties around you, awesome. Like, you're actually being blessed. People think like, oh, I can't do this because I'm not in a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 area. Yeah. We actually have it tougher than you do. We have it tougher than you do because it's tougher to create a spread on a $20,000 or $30,000 house than it is on a $200,000 house. Yeah. So if you have these houses around you, you're actually blessed. Just raise the numbers. Just think, hey, my spreads are going to grow because of it. And even if you have to raise private money first, perfectly fine. You can do the wrap method just like you mentioned. You can deal with a experienced title company or attorney that's done it before. I do highly recommend that. That way they handle it for you. You don't even have to handle the paperwork at that point. But what's going to happen is you're going to find that more people around you actually have more capital available to them, so that your down payments are larger too. It's tougher to find a $10,000 down payment in an area where houses are $30,000 than it is for a house that's $150,000.
Oh yeah. People that are buying $30,000 houses typically don't have a lot of money saved up, so getting that down payment is an issue. I've actually heard of one guy out of Colorado who will say, "Don't give me, or if you can't give me a down payment, Give me 10% of the equity when you decide to sell it. And so he grabs his down payment then.
Yes, that is what's so beautiful about this. Is once you get to a certain level, you'll realize that everything is just creative and in an agreement.
Yep.
So there's nothing. So originally, when people are first starting, they're thinking like, "Oh, I need X amount of percentage down. I need this interest rate because that's what banks do. That's what I've heard mortgage companies doing." They're all out. This is all between you and one other person. You can be paid in cats and dogs if you want. It does not matter. Like it's all in the agreement. I've seen people get paid by with jet skis and cars, and they've made agreements for other businesses. I literally have a deal going on right now where I have the option of reselling some things, or I can just keep part of the portfolio as my payment. Totally up to me. So if something fits out of that portfolio for me, I can keep it. I can handle the rest of the job, and that's going to be my payment. Like no bank is going to do that with you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because they're not looking at creativity. They're looking at spreadsheets.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So we've beaten the note thing up as much as we can without going extensive. What other methods do you like? You said rentals. I think most people understand rentals. Is there any other creative ways that you like as cash flow?
I think it's important to keep things simple too.
Mm-hmm.
So I also see others who like I have this extravagant JV agreement, this joint venture. I have an extravagant business plan. It's mapped out over 15 years, and it's got all these moving parts. Meanwhile, the guy next to you is just like buying a single family house every month and like just kicking your ass.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's got a system in place. He understands the business of renting property. He understands the business of maintaining property. He or she understands the business of building value. Like all of these things are super simple things once you understand them. So if you understand the step-by-step process of how to truly rent out a property to a tenant who is not only deserving, but it's going to take care of it, understands that it's a win-win 50-50 situation or 100-100, I should say. Because 50-50 is not a winning proposition. 100-100 is in a relationship. So if you have tenants that understand that, and at the same time, you've provided them a great quality product, a beautiful place to live, they feel good about it. They want to take care of it. When I see people run into problems with rental property or owning rental property, it's because they see everything as an expense.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't want to fix that because it's an extra $150 and I'm only going to make $22 this month if I do that. The problem is you are taking $150 and you are putting it over top of another person. Like that $150 to you is more important than another person, which is wrong.
Yeah.
That's bad integrity. That's bad business. It's not good for the long term. You might make a few bucks in the short term, but you can't scale like that either. So you're going to get to 20 properties and be so overwhelmed by maintenance issues and problematic tenants and turnover that you're never going to want to grow. It's actually not going to be profitable for you. Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy that builds a big, strong foundation, takes less money up front, owns 5 or 10 properties that becomes basically break even for them because they're doing a lot of investing and putting back into the properties up front and building great property value.
Yeah.
Once they get to their next 20, they take 10, they take off. 20, off to the races. 30, they can't be stopped. 50, 100. These are the guys that end up owning 4, 5, 6, 700 houses because they have everything built into place. And by the way, you can actually have that many houses or more houses than the guy with 10 and have less problems and less calls. I know people with 100 units, they get 1 call a month.
Yeah.
Because they handled the business up front correctly. And I know other people with 6 properties that are at 3 different properties twice a week.
Pulling their hair out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, and that's partially why I've decided to go towards storage units. Although you've got significantly more condensed amount of tenants, you're not so guided and persuaded by all the issues of maintenance and the emotions of, oh, that's somebody's family in there. And so I like the note model, which is probably the avenue I'll go. But, all my rental buddy friends will bash me for that. Well, where's your depreciation? And how do you get your appreciation, your equity, and your upside? And
well, let's talk about appreciation for a second.
Okay.
What is appreciation? Something becomes more valuable.
Yeah.
Right? Why is something that is deteriorating becoming more valuable? Is it appreciation or is it inflation due to the printing and lower demand of money? It's probably inflated. It's just taking more dollars to buy something.
Right.
People that are depending on appreciation are going to struggle, especially with the fluctuations in the market. Now, I'm not saying that, hey, it isn't nice that when you sell a property for 40 grand more than what you bought it for, it isn't awesome, like on down the road. But if you're going to build a business model strictly on that, at some point you're going to get caught holding the bag. You need to be building a business that actually cash flows and works for you month to month, no matter the price.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you said that, it made me think about the guys that are buying with good equity and then refining out at 80-85%, and then now they have no equity, but they have moderate cash flow.
Yeah, I am actually very interested to see what's going to happen over the next handful of years. Mm-hmm. If we see a market correction, if we see a market pullback, the guys that are leveraged really, really heavily, I'm interested to see, one, what the banks do with them, because there are provisions in those loans that say that they can call them back. I don't care what anybody says. I've seen it happen. Yeah. Hey, we need this $1 million back. Once we get the next million, we can refi the next million for you. And then they call them a month later, like, hey, and then they can't do it. Then they take the property, right? Yeah. Banks don't care about you. You are a number on a spreadsheet. They want the money. That's it. They don't care. It's not person to person. That's what's so great about creating the notes, in my personal opinion, is because you get to know that person. Now, they might be plugged into your system, and you may never talk to them again personally, but they have there's a face-to-face. It's not a, hey, this person doesn't care about me. They agreed with this with me, which creates more opportunity and a better business model in the long run. In my personal opinion, it's for longevity. But I'm very interested to see what happens with the heavy refis, all the refining out, the pulling out of paper. I have X amount of dollars on the table now, which is awesome. I think it's going to depend on who reinvests that money to actually work versus who actually holds that money because it feels good. And who can get over that tipping point. Because if you do that a couple times, it's the money, once times get tough, that money will go really, really quickly. I think it's the guys that are able to do it at scale who will be able to survive. If they've structured the business in a way that it still cash flows. Yeah. And it's not a huge liability. Because the other problem that happens during recession times is, depending on the quality of asset that you have, people move out, right? So if you have a B or a C, you're probably safe. But if you have an A, A's move out to B's, B's move to C's, and then the C's can get pushed out. So I am actually very interested to see what that looks like here in the next couple of years. I don't have a crystal ball just like anybody else. That's just my opinion. The way that I run my business is I make sure everything cash flows heavily. I like equity for the flexibility of it. It gives me options. Mm-hmm. And if I need money, I have no problem refining. I refied a property just a couple of weeks ago, actually. And I'll do it when the time is right, but I don't do it up front in a way that I just have money sitting and my cash flow is damaged. I will do it when I need the money and I have something to purchase, and I'm like, I'm going to put it on that, and I double my money. Yeah. Using it to snowball your business efficiently and effectively makes a ton of sense, but where it's a business model and you're refining every single property, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And that's what crippled a bunch of people in the last downfall. Well, that was like the sexy thing, and it's kind of become the sexy thing again. Mm-hmm. It's become the thing that it's just part of the model. Yeah. Versus actually owning and maintaining property. The other piece of this is the guys who are going to survive that understand the amount of work that it takes to get the property to the value that they're actually projecting it to be at. Mm-hmm. They understand that the quality of asset that it needs to be. They understand the quality of people that they need. They understand the teams. They understand the systems. It's mostly the new guy that's going to come in and get really, really beat up because they're going to come in, oh, it's on the spreadsheet. I have this many units. I should make this much money. I'll refi it out. And they buy it and they just start that process versus like, oh, I need to put $500,000 into this thing to make it the unit that it will actually produce this kind of income, and then I can do that. Yeah. Steps, because it's just lack of knowledge. I've seen the same thing done in some commercial buyers that I follow on Facebook. I'm interested to see where they'll be at when the market turns, when they start calling the commercial loans because they've refied out at 85% or whatever. Yeah, I am very interested to see what that looks like, and I'm just going to put that into the piggy bank of knowledge and start using and use that in the future. I mean, this is a long game. I don't think anybody here, neither of us are here to do this for the next 5 or 10 years. I'm here to do this for the next 75 years and, pass this on to future generations. Yeah.
Okay. So you spoke briefly in your first book about another creative way of cash flow, where you would building yourself into the note, and I'm a little foggy on it, but you would sell to an end buyer while capturing a part or adding on another note, correct? A second note?
Yeah. So what I would do is, if I was selling a property, if I had an interest in a property that I was going to wholesale, instead of taking a $10,000 check, I would take a couple of grand up front if need be, and then I would take the rest in a promissory note with interest over time. That way, I would turn a $10,000 wholesale fee into like 15 or 17 over time, and then I would create that consistent cash flow. And if you're able to do that, what you can actually do is you can build an entire portfolio of notes with none of your own money, with no credit, without ever owning anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody ever defaults on you, you can actually own property for completely free. Now, that's all if you're in the first lien position. If you're in the second lien position, it's because you've sold to someone who had to go get a loan. It's tough to get ahead of a bank.
Yeah.
So the bank's going to get that first lien position. But honestly, when you're selling something wholesale, what are you doing? You're selling it at a discount. Like, you are selling it to somebody at a discount still. So there's typically equity involved anyways, so it's still okay to take that second lien position.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get too much further out from that, though, because if they do default, you're probably not going to get paid.
Yeah. Well, so I've heard, I could be way wrong, but I've heard that if the second lien position is in fear of the owner defaulting, they can assume the first lien position to prevent that foreclosure. Have you heard of that?
I actually haven't, but I think that would depend on who's in front of you. You're going to have a tough time getting in front of like a tax lien, IRS lien, a bank. Like, you're going to have a tough time getting in front of like larger entities. But if you happen to have a relationship with the first lien position holder, let's say like I wholesaled it to you, you and I obviously have a relationship, and you got a loan from a private investor and you have a relationship with them, we can all work together on that.
Yeah.
But I think that's when you can't underestimate the power of relationship.
Right.
But typically, if you're in a second or third lien position, which again, I don't recommend getting any deeper than 2, it's probably going to be somebody ahead of you that you're going to have a difficult time getting in touch with even. Yeah,
probably. All right. So you've got some children's financial books coming out potentially in the near future.
Dude, it's true. It's a leak.
Yeah. Let's hear about it.
It's true. I have. So the second book just came out. If you can't cash flow after this, I've got nothing for you. The reviews have been great. The feedback's been great. The feedback that I received from you was phenomenal and wonderful. So I appreciate the kind words on it. Yeah. I'm really glad we were able to link up for that. And so what I have planned for the future, other than finishing out the I've Got Nothing For You series and doing, a more adult-driven financial strategy book or financial awareness and literacy book, is I realized that I need to get to people before they have all the bad habits that they have, and maybe some of the mental downturns that they have. So I've decided that I need to start getting in touch with kids in their lives, but I need to do it in a way that's entertaining and exciting, and will maybe even touch the parents a little bit too. So I have some children's books that are coming out looking like age range from 5 to 10. The first couple books are already written. We're moving through the illustration stage right now, which is really exciting. That's actually really fun. But basically what they are is they are teaching you through fictional stories. So the main characters of the first book are a blue jay and a rat. The rat's in the rat race. The blue jay is free. And they actually work together. That way they can actually better each other's lives. And what it does is throughout the story is exciting and fun and rhymes kind of Dr. Seuss-ish, which makes it exciting. But at the same time, when you read through it, by the time you're at the end of the book, you realize, I accidentally learned something here, that it's good to work together. It's good to have a good mindset, be positive, have outgoing outlooks on things, and be consistent. Like there's all kinds of different lessons. There's financial lessons, mental development, personal development, mindset. I mean, you name it. So I'm actually really excited to get those in people's hands.
Yeah, no, sounds great. I was just thinking, who's that public school, Scholastic? You should get Scholastic to distribute it to all schools in the nation.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That is actually, You've read my mind, my friend. So that it was probably about a year ago. I made a public post saying that I wanted some help trying to get into public schools.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had some people that had some experience trying. I had some people that were saying it was impossible. I had some other people say that they wanted to help. So I knew there was like some possible avenues there.
Yeah.
So that is something that I'm going to go ahead and put out in the universe. That is 100% a goal of mine. I want the books in libraries. I want it in schools. Like if you're in second grade, first or second grade, I want that book like in your room. That way that can be the book of the week for everybody in the class. And then they can have a discussion on it and say like, why is it important that Randy the rat was able to speak with Jay the Blue Jay? You know what I mean?
Right.
So now that you got a couple of character names out there, you'll be able to put this together when you see them on the shelves. Like I want kids growing in a direction that they aren't comparing themselves to everybody else. They understand that how they are right now is enough. They're loved. They are appreciated. They are the future. They are the foundation. And they have so much more access to the responsibility than they think that they do now. They're going to make a much bigger difference than what they think now. They think right now they're too small to make a difference, right? Even we think that all the time. I've thought that before. And then, too small to make a difference. Well, I heard something the other day. If you think you're too small to make a difference, sleep in a room with a couple mosquitoes one night.
Yeah.
See how big you have to be to make a difference. So I'm really excited for that avenue. That's something that I'm really, really passionate about.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, because I think it's one of the biggest complaints about public school systems in America nowadays is that they're just simply not preparing our kids for the real world. You leave high school not knowing anything, but you're so gung-ho to live on your own. But then you get out there and you're fail. And if we can just get a step ahead of that in the future, it'd be.
If we could just avoid the $150,000 in debt by age 20, like if you just have those financial tools, you're already going to be off to a better race. And that can be done in a single meeting or a single book if you understand it correctly.
Right. No, that's awesome. I don't want to take up too much more time, but since we're on the topic of cash flow, we've beat up single family. And I know that me and you have briefly talked about storage, but what about storage intrigues you, and what kind of model are you going towards? Are you going for the little guys, the big ones, management in place, all tech based? What about it intrigues you? Because I want to know what you're doing, because you're the smart guy in the room right now. So I want to see what you're doing and see if I can't.
You're way too humble. So what I'm excited about with storage units is you're telling me that I can have tenants that aren't on site and there's no plumbing and it's a steel building and my only overhead is the arm that goes up and down, and he doesn't call off on weekends and he doesn't call off on holidays. Yep. And if they don't pay their bill, I can lock their stuff up. Boy, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. And he'll fix your process.
Like larger the better in my eyes. What I would probably do is I would probably buy a couple of small ones first to get my management, my systems in place, because I'm sure there's some differences there since I don't own them yet. I do know people that own them, and they seem to be very happy with them. They seem to be for sale less than other properties too. There's just the maintenance and the management seems to be quite a bit different.
Yep.
I'm sure there's some other cost-heavy things that I'm not seeing right now. But no, my game plan is to have some large storage units. And I think it also depends on where you're at. Your location probably matters. If you should have indoor ones, outdoor ones, if you should have extra land for parking boats or campers and, different items like that, which that also intrigues me. But I want to own that. I want to own a prison. I think it'd be cool to own a prison too. Because
prison, huh?
Yeah, if people misbehave, you get to extend their lease. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like lifetime leases. Yeah. I've actually looked into owning a prison before, like the privately owned ones, and see how they work. Yeah. They're kind of intriguing. But the storage unit and the larger storage unit is something that definitely intrigues me for the again, it goes back to the questions I always ask myself. What if I had 50 more of these? Very scalable.
Yeah.
And the ones around here, like I have a couple storage units for my maintenance crews and my full-time guys.
Yeah.
So I know, one, I know what I pay. And two, I know how difficult it is to find one that size. They are always sold out. Yeah. Always. Like the last one that I got, it's I think it's 15 by 30. I pay $140 a month for it. And which some areas they're like, oh my gosh, it's so affordable. I pay $400 a month for a 10 by 10 in LA. Like, yeah, it's LA, but
Yeah.
it depends where you're at. But these storage units, like when I never go to it, but the one time I was at it to sign up for it, as far as the eye can see,
Yeah.
I mean, and the rows are as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
So when you do the math on that, and I got the last one and became available 20 minutes before I showed up, and there was another guy coming after me to get it.
Jeez.
Like, they sell out that quickly.
Yeah.
So when I think about that, and I look at their management, and I think about the people in the office and the scalability of that, it's very intriguing to me.
Yep. Yep. Same here. What's your thoughts on mobile home parks, whether owned units or leased lots?
So I've dealt with mobile homes before. I've not dealt with a mobile home park yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it fits my investor identity when I look at myself intrinsically. Now, I have bought and sold mobile homes on owner finance.
Yeah.
And that's basically a fancy car title. You can do that literally today.
Right.
You can go find a mobile home below mobile home market and go buy it for $3,000 and resell it for $8,000, $3,000 down, $200 a month for 4 years.
Yep.
And you'll be able to do that today. Literally, you can close it today, everything. Buy it, sell it, everything. So I like doing that with extra capital that I have floating around if I see an opportunity like that. But again, that goes back to the super scalable, no responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm cashed out on down payment, so I'm not actually risking any money.
Right.
That's the big piece for me. If they don't pay, I have a couple people that are late with stuff like that each month, and it's not even a stress on me.
Yeah.
Because I'm cashed out. It's free money essentially. And not to say like it won't become a responsibility if they don't pay. They're usually just late. They pay every month. But the mobile home park, I would own a mobile home park before I owned a single mobile home in a park.
Yeah.
I think it just comes with different maintenance and different ideals, in a sense that your team has to be prepared for what mobile home parks typically provide. They provide different problems than a single family house is going to do. Yeah. It's unique in a sense that it's kind of like, so a big multifamily is kind of a dormitory, right? You have to build this culture. Like if you have 8 different cultures in one building, you're going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Kind of build the culture out in a way that everyone gets along. It's going to go much smoother for you. A mobile home park is almost like 2 in 1, because technically the culture is confined within that single mobile home unit, but you're so close to others that it becomes a cultural problem.
Yeah.
So I think you have to do a good balance of upfront, like credit background checks. Like you have to pass the tests to actually purchase within the park, which I think is important. The best parks that I know that run smoothly do all of that. That way they're keeping out a lot of the riffraff or the problems that they might see if they just let anybody and everybody come in that has 4, 5, 10, 15 grand on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we beat that up. Well, the reason I brought that up is because obviously I'm looking at storage units, but while looking for storage units, I've ran across mobile home parks that are crazy cash flow, but then they're all owned houses. And then I'm thinking, man, the maintenance on those things have got to be horrific, but man, that cash flow looks great. So I'm either trying to talk myself in or out of it.
That's what you got to be careful about. Like, boy, it looks good right now. What does it look like in 4 years?
Yep.
It can be difficult to look 4, 6, 8, 10 years down the road. That's why when I'm renovating a property to put a new tenant in, or I bought a new project and I'm finishing out, I'm like, okay, the budget for this is 8 to 10 grand. And it turns out it needs a bathroom and it becomes 14 grand. It's frustrating to put that last 4 in, but I know if I put that last 4 in, I don't have to worry about it for 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. That's a big time return on my money and a big time return on my time if I go ahead and do it up front. So I would probably be looking at the mobile home parks if you own them, if you actually own the homes or the houses, whatever's on it.
Yeah.
I would be looking at maybe selling them on terms. That way you don't have the responsibility there and your maintenance shrinks up. But you just got to realize that, okay, the only thing I'm going to have left is lot rent. So the numbers have to work on my debt when it's just lot rent and not lot rent plus whatever the the payment for the house is for them to own it, because that'll eventually run out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So if people want to find your new book and your old book, if you can't wholesale after this, I've got nothing for you, and your new book, if you can't cash flow after this, I've got nothing for you. Where can they be found?
We found on Amazon, best place for them. If you can't cash flow, or if you can't wholesale after this, is still number one right now, which is amazing, truly humbling. Thank you to everybody listening. Thank you to everybody who's purchased, shared with others. If you can't cash flow after this, actually launched at number one, which is awesome. It's truly incredible. So you can find them both on Amazon right now, and that's probably the best place. Probably the best place overall is Amazon. Pick them up.
Cool. Awesome. And if anybody wants to reach out to you specifically for any questions, what's the best place for that?
Best place is probably Instagram, actually. Todd _M as in Michael _Fleming. Just because I don't have Messenger on Facebook. So I don't actually have the ability to return messages on Facebook anymore, just because I had so many.
Yeah.
That it was just unfair to. It was unfair to even try.
Yeah.
I couldn't go deep enough with people that I wanted to, because the messages were overwhelming. I appreciate the love and support. I can't put that into words enough. But the best way to get a hold of me would probably be Instagram, or interacting on any content that I put out there. I usually try to respond.
Okay. Awesome. We went over last time, but actually, I won't ask you the 6 months question, because last time we dove into that a lot about our whys and family. But has your exotic car changed since the last time?
I have no cars right now.
No cars.
There's no cars right now. I'm looking forward. I think probably the next two is an R8 and a 458.
Nice.
Those are the next two.
So McLaren's gone.
Car man, you're always pulling on the strings.
Yeah, making you thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of investing into our businesses.
Yeah.
So I've freed up a lot of cash flow, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next purchase, because I love cars. Some people think they're a waste. I actually look at them as like functional pieces of art.
Yeah.
They literally bring me joy. I am eliminating things that don't bring me joy in my life.
Yeah.
So like literally just like little things in the house. I mean, you name it. And cars are something that brings me joy. It brings joy to other people. I love inspiring people through it. I love sharing it with other people. So I am very, very excited for the next purchases. What about you?
What am I getting? I have no idea.
You got the Raptor.
I got the Raptor, but I'm in Texas, so I don't get to drive it like it's supposed to be driven. So I don't know.
Think about Texas is flat. I love that.
I hate Texas, dude. Everybody knows it. And we thought about moving this summer, and we probably still may, but a whole business is here in Texas. So not only have we not dialed in a place we want to go to, so I can't really start to develop those relationships to where we don't know where we're going.
Northeast Ohio is open for you, brother.
Yeah. Yes.
We got hills and everything.
Yeah. No. We're thinking Salt Lake. My brother lives there, which is nice. It's got the mountains, got the trees, got everything I like. But there's not enough mountains. I've lived in areas where it looks beautiful, but once you live there long enough, for me specifically, I've hiked every inch of certain mountains in northern Arizona. I'm like, I'm over it. So Reno is intriguing. We got the flat, nice, dry weather. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. But then within 45 minutes, you got Lake Tahoe and all the Sierra Nevada mountain range. So limitless exploring. And you've seen that I'm getting my pilot's license. I want somewhere with a lot of sunny days and low winds. And Reno has low winds year round, a variance of like 6 miles an hour year round.
That's amazing.
So, Reno is probably where we'll end up, but who knows? We don't know. So that's why we haven't decided yet. But anyways, I hate Texas.
Well, thank you so much for having me on again.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
It's all mine. If I'm going to leave anybody with anything, I will leave you the secret to success. If you do this, you'll be 98% more likely to become successful, and that is to become self-aware.
Yep. Most definitely.
That's what I'm going to leave you with.
Awesome. All right. Well, today's Friday, so I'll see you next Thursday afternoon. Actually, I think we're going to have dinner somewhere, I think.
Yep. Yes, we are. I'm very excited. I'm excited to shake your hand, my man.
Cool. All right. We'll see you then.
Yeah.
Later, dude.